Good morning, everyone. I am Tabitha Hassell with Tabs on Tap. I can't believe it's finally Friday. Man, it has been a long week for me. I don't know about all of you, but I am very happy to have a Friday. I still have to work today. I still have to do my thing, but that's okay. I guess we all at least have to get through the day. Just curious if you guys have any big weekend plans. We have Colonel Joe Adams, who of course joined us yesterday and typically does join us on Wednesdays. He has a big event tomorrow. We're going to talk about that a little bit. I'll give you guys some details on what's going on with Colonel Joe Adams tomorrow. And there's a lot going on in the news. I don't think the news ever disappoints us. So some of the things I'm going to talk about today, it's Friday, so we can have a little bit more fun. Of course, on this podcast, we can have fun any day. It doesn't have to be a Friday. But some of the things I'm going to be getting into today is one, at the top of my mind today is New York City. I think there is something going down today in New York City. We know that yesterday Donald Trump announced he's going to have a press conference today at Trump Tower. Yesterday, some homes raided of some city officials. We know we talked about yesterday, showed a video of the military all around New York City, people claiming there's no police presence, just military, army, National Guard all across the city. I think there's a reason why, and we're definitely going to get into that. Good morning, Ryan and Allison. Good to see you both this morning. We're going to talk about parents. Should parents be responsible for their children's actions? We touched base on this a little bit yesterday, and that was before we heard that the charges were announced against Colin Gray, who is, of course, the father of Colt Gray, the shooter in Georgia, in Barrow County, Georgia, Appalachia High School. So I want to talk to you guys about that and see what you think. And if is it a case by case basis? We'll talk about that. Good morning, Lori. Happy Friday to you. Good morning, Karen. Good morning, Amy. Hope you're feeling better, Amy. Amy Bittner, I was thinking about you and about where you live and thinking about coming and joining you because it looks like a lot of fun where you're at. Believe it or not, I keep up with you guys. You guys might not know it, but I see your Facebook posts and I can tell when you guys are having a good time and so on. Let's see, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the FBI, of course, raiding the homes of some city officials in New York City. Senator Chuck Grassley made an announcement about the Trump assassination. BRICS, got a little bit of BRICS news, but you know what? The fun we're going to have today. Good morning, Eddie. It's Friday, and it's not just because it's Friday. I know we tend to be a little bit more lax on Fridays on every show I've ever been on, but this is a podcast. We can do anything we want any day of the week. It just happens to be that I saw some, read some different articles and was going over some information. I thought, let's talk about this stuff. Let's just let's just get crazy. And it literally is crazy. Anyone who tunes in, later in the show and they see us talking about this, they're going to think, what is this girl doing? Why is she talking about these things? But it's to me, I find weirdness fascinating, if that makes sense to you. The stranger a story is, the more I like it. Joe Adams, the Price of Freedom banquet tomorrow night. You better believe it, Joe. And I'm going to be getting into that into detail because we want to make sure everybody's there. Good morning, Dottie. Good morning, Tammy and Jerry. And so we're going to get crazy today. I've got a lot of video for you. So what we're going to do a little later after we cover some real news is I want to talk about some weird stuff. I want to talk about ghostly encounters. I'm going to show you some videos. And we're going to look at these videos and we're going to decide, is it really a ghostly encounter or is there a reasonable explanation? And then I'm going to tell you a couple things that have happened to me. So, and things that I believe, because I absolutely do believe in other things. We're going to talk about Congress. We have a congresswoman, along with Matt Gaetz. We're going to talk about him a little bit too. And the UFO research they've been doing in the roadblocks they've ran into while doing that research and what they think after, of course, they have access to some of the files, not everything. We know Donald Trump said he's going to reveal it all if he wins. He said he's going to tell everything. I don't think they'll let him tell everything, quite honestly. Maybe that's one of those campaign promises that's wishful thinking, but will probably never happen. But, good morning, Sherry. I want to talk about flat Earth. Now, I do not believe in flat Earth. I don't. But I will say that I've watched a lot of videos about flat Earth. I've listened to a lot of presentations just out of curiosity, and I can really see how people do believe it. I don't believe it. I think it's a theory easily misproven, and we'll talk about that also. Allison, not sure of the details on this case, but generally no. If your child sells drugs to someone and they OD and die, or they get drunk or have an accident and kill someone, should parents be charged with murder? Seems like these murder charges are only when a gun is involved. That is very true, Allison. Good morning, Jennifer. And we're definitely going to get into what's going on with the case with Colt Gray and this shooting and other cases exactly like that. Some of the other things I want to talk about today is the Freemasons. I know you guys, I know you guys might be surprised by that, but I want to talk about the Freemasons. And I'll tell you my opinion later on all of this. I'm going to have some videos to show you guys of a lot of different things, including our corporations trying to kill us. That sounds really far-fetched, doesn't it? But hey, why not? It's Friday. We're going to get into all different types of things. And I have a photo to show you all of what is supposed to be two aliens. So we're going to look at that later also from one of the alien accounts. And I want to talk about alien abductions. I know that's a lot to fit into 2 hours, but we're going to do it. And I've got a lot of videos to show you guys today. And not to mention a photo I want to show you during the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Somebody took a photo and they claim that it's a UFO in the background. So we're going to take a look at that also. And it's probably a theory you guys haven't even heard. Amy, flat earthers drive me crazy. That's part of the reason why I want to talk about it, because to me, it is the craziest, most nonsensical theory that a person could have. Yet so many people believe it, and so many more people believe it, just like people who don't believe that the birds are real. And I'll tell you what, it's another, I wasn't even planning on talking about that today, but maybe we will get into that a little bit. And I wish I would have had the photo today ready. I had it on my computer for days, and then I just never got around to showing it, where someone found looked like a pigeon. I can put it on my personal Facebook page later, but they found a pigeon on the ground. I guess it had been hit by a car or something, and it was electrical. I mean, there was like all these wires hanging out and a little power grid thing in there, and probably a drone is what I'm guessing it was. I know that different drones are used, whether they look like bugs or I almost said butterflies, butterflies or birds. I mean, that's true, but I do believe that birds are real. But there's a funny movement where people say, "Oh, birds aren't real," and I do think weird things happen with the animals, and I don't really understand it. But I'm with you, Amy. I'm not so sure about the flat earthers. Allison, fake. Yes, it is. I believe that birds are absolutely real. And so those are some of the things we want to get into, but let's just start with this. What's going on in New York City? Because yesterday I showed the video of the military in New York City. I'm going to show it again. Hazmat trucks in New York City. And we know that Donald Trump has made an announcement. He's going to have a press conference today in New York City. There were some raids that took place yesterday in New York City. We're going to get into that. Let me show you these videos first so you can get a good idea. And I have a lot of videos today, so it might take me time to find all of the things today that I want to play, because it's going to be a very busy morning this morning on the show. But I do have video, and let's see here. Here's the video of the military. So let's take a look at this first.
Look, guys, the National Guard. National Guard is now all over Brooklyn, man. There ain't no cops anywhere. It's only National Guard now, everywhere. Look at that shit. Martial law coming, man.
Possible. Look at the hazmat truck.
Set up everywhere. All over. They're getting ready, man, because they know what's coming. Hazmat operations, you see this? This is all New York City Fire Department. Oh yeah, you see this shit happening, man. They preparing for something big. Oh, Manhattan Borough Command, right here. See that? All you're seeing is military around too.
All right, see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think they are planning something big. Here is the photo. This is for Donald Trump, obviously having a press conference today, New York City at 12 p.m. Eastern time, which I believe is 11 a.m. our time. That's today, right there at Trump Tower. I think that what's happening now, this is only my speculation. I do think something's going down in New York City today. I really, really do. And I could be wrong. I very well could be wrong. But yesterday, I've got to remember these names. But yesterday, the FBI, they seized the cell phone of the NYPD commissioner, Edward Caban. They seized his cell phone. They raided his home. Yesterday, they raided the homes of two other Mayor Eric Adams aides. That would be his aide Phil Banks and his aide, the deputy mayor Sheena Wright. The FBI raided these three homes. They confiscated the cell phone of the NYPD police commissioner. That's a big deal. Now, it's allegedly all related to potentially to Eric Adams' campaign finances, that maybe there was some wrongdoing that took place. Kim says, but they're doing a mass casualty training like we had here or so a month ago. I don't know. Are they? Sherry says CCP operatives. I don't know what's going on in New York City, but I do think there is something going on. It's there's a lot of speculation out there. I'll tell you that there's a lot of speculation out there. Maybe they are doing a training. We had a training here in St. Louis City, like you mentioned, Kim. What was that? Maybe a month ago, where we had certain streets closed in St. Louis City because we were doing a training exercise right there, and I believe that was related to the potential possibility that we could have someday a major earthquake, and what would we have to do to evacuate the city and things along those lines. Now, if this is the case for New York City, I've not heard anyone say that these training exercises are happening in New York City. Now, here in the St. Louis City, they did announce it ahead of time. They said, "Hey, people, stay out of this area because we're conducting this, training session." I've not heard that about New York City. Not to say that I haven't mentioned it, but I've heard a lot of different theories. And one of those theories is that there's a potential walkout of the NYPD. And that could be why people are seeing military on the streets and not police officers. Perhaps they are staging some type of walkout. And if they are, who would blame them? I don't blame them one single bit. I'd be staging a walkout myself, with everything they have to deal with and all of the defunding that's happened in New York City, not to mention, they had the plainclothes police unit that was taken off the streets. Do you remember that? And they were a great deterrent because New York City residents, they had no idea if there was a police officer next to them or not, because they had all these plainclothes police officers running around the city, and you really had no idea. If I commit a crime, I might be arrested right away. I might not see a police officer, but yet there is one right next to me. Nope. As soon as Biden took over, guess what? Out they went. No more plainclothes police unit in New York City. And we know that the city is overrun right now with illegals. They're dealing with the Tren de Aragua gang. There's so much going on in New York City. I wouldn't blame these police officers 1 minute if they step down. And so those are some different things. Dottie, were there training exercises going on during September 11th? I believe actually there was, Dottie. I don't know if it was the day before or the day of, but there certainly were training exercises that were taking place in New York City right around 9/11. And it certainly could be. Amy, there are cops everywhere in Manhattan. I've been there. There are. I've walked through Manhattan, Little Italy, Brooklyn, the Bronx. I've been through all those areas, and I saw police everywhere. I mean, they are everywhere through these areas. And so if somebody's walking around and they're looking for police and they're only seeing military, it would probably raise an alarm with me too. It would be like, okay, what's going on? Another theory I heard that I think is more plausible is that we know Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, is under investigation. Clearly, the FBI, again, the investigation is proceeding and is escalating, being that we had three homes raided, the home raided of the New York City NYPD police commissioner, Edward Caban. They went into his home, seized his cell phone, some other things apparently. Same with the deputy mayor, same with another aide. And it's possible that they're going to relieve the mayor, the deputy mayor of their duties and the police commissioner. That's certainly possible. If that is the case, it would make sense that the military might be there for this transition because sometimes what happens is if a mayor and if the police, let's say in this case, the police commissioner, sometimes it's a police chief, if they've been found guilty of wrongdoing and they are relieved from their position, obviously you want a peaceful transfer of power and you need someone to be managing the city while the mayor and the police commissioner are indisposed. So those are all some possibilities. I guess we'll know at 11 o'clock. I mean, I think it's unusual for Donald Trump to hold a press conference out of nowhere, something unscheduled. But now, on the flip side of that, there's also a good possibility that Donald Trump is holding the press conference. It has absolutely nothing to do with anything else that's going on in New York City. It's very possible he's holding the press conference to talk about his case. There's a lot of speculation out there that he is going to be sentenced to at least a year in prison, a year. And of course, he's going to appeal. He likely will be able to be a free citizen, during that appeal. I don't expect them to take him into custody immediately, but that certainly could have changed. There's a possibility that he's heard word that they will be taking him into custody. You can't put past anything that's going on right now. I've said many times they've tried everything they can to get rid of Donald Trump, everything they can. They've tried to bankrupt him. They've tried to jail him. They've tried to unalive him. What else is there, outside of finally throwing him in jail to where he cannot continue on in his campaign? And if that happens, then what? Who's going to step up to take his place? I'm not even sure how the law works in that situation. I don't even think has that ever even happened before? I'm not sure. I don't know what exactly would happen. Allison said they want him in jail. They do want him in jail. And I think that they will pull any strings they can to have him behind bars because guess what? If Donald Trump is behind bars on November 5th, I mean, I don't know what the laws are. I wish we had somebody to talk to about that. Can he even continue to run for president? I don't know if he's convicted. I don't know. I don't why would now? I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. I guess he's already going through the sentencing phase if they're going to sentence him to potentially a year in prison. We'll have to see how that plays out. But I will be very curious today, very curious to see what that press conference is about. So I am going to be tuning in. If you're here in the St. Louis area, that's going to happen at 11 a.m. our time. If you're Eastern, it's going to be noon. If you're further west, I think it would probably be 9 a.m., 8 a.m. Sometimes California's an hour ahead of us, sometimes two hours ahead of us. So probably 9 o'clock. All right. But so make sure you take some time out to check on Donald Trump and his press conference there from the Trump Tower, see what's going on. Allison, rumors that Riker Island is preparing for him. I've heard the same rumors. I've heard that we're typically, he would be able to remain a free citizen in this type of situation. There are a lot of rumors out there, that they are going to take him into custody. I really wasn't going to talk about it because I don't want to get everyone upset and riled up and think that we're back to having no chance again when we've been so excited about maybe the possibility of getting out and winning this election and finally getting our country on the right track again. And there's a very good possibility that if Donald Trump announces that his legal team has told him and informed him that he will be taken into custody, I believe, what is that, September 18th, September 19th, the sentencing? If he has heard that they're going to take him into custody, we could have all of these different military branches in New York City to prepare for the onslaught. Because I'll tell you what, if they take him into custody and he is no longer able to be on the ballot, he's no longer eligible to run for president in November, there's going to be some serious action taking place around the country. I think we all know that. So, you know what? All we can do is hang on, hang tight, and see what's going on. Allison, Congressman Benny Thomas tried to have his Secret Service removed if he goes to jail. Well, of course, he'll be Epsteined, is what will happen. He'll go to jail and they'll say, oh, gee, our officers, our prison guards went to sleep. They took a little nap. They went and got a coffee. They were on a coffee break, whatever excuse they come up with. And oh, we come back to a cell and darn it, something has happened. I think we all know how that goes, don't we? And I'm not going to say that's happening. They'll be watching him 24/7. However, look at Epstein. Who would have ever thought with Epstein that Epstein finally, after all those years, went to prison? And then, gee, the two guards fell asleep. Isn't that what they said? That they fell asleep? And the camera just happened to be turned off. He was under 24/7 surveillance. The camera just happened to be turned off. And what happened? He hung himself with some bed sheets? No, 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 no. We all know that's not true. We all know it's not true. So if they can do that to Epstein, if that's even what really happened to Epstein, then they can certainly do it to Donald Trump. So all we can do is hang tight, see what's happening, and wait for that press conference. Hopefully, maybe he'll be making a good announcement. Maybe he's made some headway with some of the voter fraud. We'll see. We just got to hang in there, hope, and pray for the best. Oh, let's see, Amy. I thought that this would be postponed until next year. He would already be president if elected. Yeah, it's definitely not going to be postponed. They are definitely going to sentence him in September. I think it's September 18th or 19th. And then from there, up until now, everyone has said that when he appeals, that he will not be taken into custody, that he will be able to await his appeal as a free citizen and will be able to continue on the ballot for the November election. But I'm telling you, the past couple of days, I just like some of you, like you, Allison, I've been hearing that that's going to change. I hate to think it, and that they very well may take him into custody on September. I wish I remembered it was either 18th or 19th, but they will potentially take him into custody. And yes, I also heard that Rikers Island is preparing for him to be taken into custody. Man, if that happens, Allison, Judge Merchant is corrupt. Yes, yes, he is. If they take Donald Trump into custody, man, I'm not even going to go into it right now. What is going to happen in this country? Maybe you better get out and purchase your toilet paper and paper towels and extra food items right now because oh, thank you, Allison, the 18th. I'm like, I knew it was the 18th or the 19th. Things are going to get crazy. Crazy. I'm telling you, super crazy. And it's all a sham, isn't it? It's all a big sham. It's all a sham. Eh, oh, I'm going to lose my mind if we keep talking about it. It's very upsetting that these things can happen because I think we all know, don't we? We all know what's really going on. And I think it's going to be a big wake up call if they do take him into custody with people there's a lot of people who aren't like us. And there's a lot of people who are sitting at home right now and they believe that, oh, nothing's going to happen. Everything's fine. It's a fair legal process. It's, the balance of scales or the scales are just. It's not true. Justice is corrupt. And there's no question the Department of Justice is absolutely weaponized. We know the court system weaponized. If you've ever known attorneys closely, if you've ever known a judge and talked to them, privately, the entire judicial system in the United States is completely corrupt. It is completely corrupt. All of it. Every single bit of it. I just had this conversation with somebody the other day. Completely corrupt. Many years ago, I used to date a guy whose father was a pretty big into politics, and his ex-wife was a judge. And I learned a lot about what's going on behind the scenes. And it is all about money. It's all about who you know. And it's all about how well your attorney can play down what you did. I mean, you can go in for a very serious crime and it gets turned into a muffler violation. It's all about who you know, who your attorney is, how much money you have. Allison, election interference, yes. Cindy, what I find incredibly weird is that so many people still believe all the lies. They've been lied to. It's been proven and they still don't believe it. Good morning, Karen. And you know what, Cindy? Those people will never believe it. They will never believe it. They will never open their eyes and wake up. I hope that if I'm hoping and praying Trump is not taken into custody, but if he is, I sure hope those people wake up. I think there will be some people who do, who will say, "Wow, I can't believe this actually happened." But what really worries me is that there are people who are also not like us. I don't think like most of us anyway, who are really on the edge right now, really on the edge. And I know so many of us are close to being on that edge where we feel like we are heading down this path of total destruction. We see our dollar collapsing. We see our financial system collapsing, which is imminent, in my opinion, that the entire financial system collapses. We see that we're on the brink of war, and not just one war. I mean, we're we're fighting with all these different countries. All these people hate us. You know, they would love to take over and imprison us all and turn us all into their little worker bee slaves because they hate us. They think we're terrorists, and it worries me. It does. It worries me what's going to happen under a Harris Walls regime. And I think that they've gotten to the point now where they feel like they can't beat Donald Trump because they know they try to tell us we're not the majority. It's intimidation, but we are the majority. And so therefore, they do every single thing they can, everything they can to make sure that we the people don't get ahead. It's very true. The meme that we see all the time that says, well, you know, it shows a picture of Donald Trump and it says, oh, you know, I'm just standing in their way. They're really after you. And it couldn't be more true. You know, we, the people, we've woken up. We know what's going on. We know, we see it all, don't we? We see all the corruption. We see all the money laundering, all the fraud that's taking place out there, all of the big money that people like the Biden crime family are bringing in, the money that Congress is bringing in. And trust me, that's both sides of Congress. I'm not going after Democrats on this one. That is both sides of Congress. There are very few Congress people who are Republicans who are not part of that same game. Because if they weren't, they'd be speaking out against it, and they're not. Good morning, Joe. Tammy, they be people also saying, I told you he was corrupt. And Tammy, you're absolutely right. There will be a lot of people who will also say, and trust me, though, they will seize on the opportunity to say, yes, I told you all along, Donald Trump, he's corrupt and he belongs in prison and this and this and this. We'll hear it all. But I'm really worried about safety. I'm really worried about the fact that if they take Donald Trump into custody, there are some people on the edge. We probably know those people. Maybe it's you, maybe it's me, but there are people on the edge who, when they realize that Donald Trump cannot be on the ballot in November, are absolutely going to lose their minds. And we're all probably there. Trust me, we're all probably there. But there are people who, I'm not going to pick up a weapon and go out to the streets and fight somebody. You know, I'm not going to do that. I don't think you are either, but there will be people who might. And I think that we all need to be extra cautious and extra careful if that happens. You know, that's a long if it happens. Amy, I've worked in legal for 20 years. There's still due process for Trump's cases. The judge has to walk in a fine line, especially due to it being so public. Do they, Amy? Because I feel like I don't think they care. I think that they feel, they being the big cabal that actually runs this country, I feel like they think they can do anything they want, and we can't do a darn thing about it. Look at them parading Joe Biden around in front of us, sitting at that little Fisher Price desk on the fake White House soundstage and telling us that his family took in $27 million. And yet nobody does anything about it. No one says anything about it. It's like it doesn't even matter, right? What if that were Trump? What if that were RFK Jr.? You know, what if it were JD Vance? They'd be behind bars the next day. Not Biden. Nope. 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 They don't care what we think. They don't care. They have gotten so obvious with it that it doesn't even matter because you know what? They know we can't do a darn thing about it. Just like Joe Biden once said, we can try, but they have Hellfire missiles. And trust me, they will use them against us. They will use them against us. They won't use them against the illegals, but they will use them against us. Oh, let's see here. Lori, what I don't understand is that there are highly intelligent, good people on the left. I truly want to know why they don't see it. It's brainwashing. That's what it is. It's media brainwashing. Joe, if Donald Trump is incarcerated, it could be the shot heard around the world. Man, Joe Adams, you and I both know. You and I both know there are things I can't say on this show. And I have to agree with you about that one because, man, it's going to go down. Amy, I agree with what you're saying. I'm just saying it's supposed to. Oh, yeah, it's supposed to be that way, Amy. And there are still people out there who believe that the judicial system is fair and just. It makes me laugh because it's so not true. It is so not true. I remember reading a case one time about this man. It was in Kansas City. He had kidnapped this little girl. I don't know, she's 6, 7 years old, 10 years old, something along those lines. Raped and murdered her. And I'd followed the case, and I remember when the sentencing came around, he got 10 years in prison. Little girl, kidnapped her, raped her, murdered her, a stranger, he didn't know her. Horrific case, 10 years in prison. Donald Trump, who knows what they'll do to him? Didn't harm anyone. Fraudulent, of course. Fraud. It's all fraud, isn't it? Fraudulent charges against him because they just want to take him down because they don't want us to get ahead. It's crazy. Yeah, Joe Adams, I would love to know if you think he's going to get incarcerated, asks Ellison. It's terrible. I don't know what's happening in this country and where we're going to go from here. I really do hope and pray that he doesn't get, I know he's going to get sentenced. I hope and pray they don't take him into custody because if they do, I really do worry about what's going to happen. And I think let's listen to the press conference today. Let's see what he's talking about. He may know something. It may be completely unrelated to anything that's going on with his case, but let's hear it and see what they have to say. Because, sometimes they make special circumstances for cases like this. And I can guarantee you, if they think they're going to be taking him into custody, his attorneys will know. They will know. And they will be able to inform him. And I can guarantee you, he will inform us. Trump is not the kind of person that's going to get this type of news and sit back and just let us all find out the day that it happens. He will absolutely hold a press conference and let us know. And I hope that today that's not what is happening. Linda, was it yesterday? Then a Democrat leader changed party to Republican. I don't recall her name right now. She actually did that quite some time ago because we talked about it the day that I heard the news that she was switching over. And gosh, it's a woman. What is her name? I don't recall. I just don't recall. I've got it. It's like it's right there. I've got it like right here, and I just can't think of it. But I did talk about it that day, and she did endorse Donald Trump yesterday. And I saw that coming because in California, man, things are people. There's a lot of people in California who are absolutely not. There's a lot of capitalists in California. Capitalism should be king. And I think they all know under a Harris Walls presidency, capitalism is going to be a thing of the past. All these people are starting to wake up because people like living good, don't they? All these wealthy people in California, man, I've been to some of these neighborhoods and it is unbelievable. $50 million homes. And why? Because of capitalism. These people wouldn't have those homes if it weren't for capitalism. And we all like to drive nice cars and have nice homes and have nice things. We all want the opportunity to be our own boss, to do whatever you want to do, right? If you want to open a side business, if you want to go into business for yourself, well, they don't want you to do any of those things under when they get rid of capitalism. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will strip all of those rights away from you. You will have to get a job at a factory or at a store or whatever is left open because it's going to get ugly. Daughter Naomi work? I'm not sure. Karen says, what's going on with Hochul? Yeah, same situation, Karen, that I don't know if you're here when I was talking about it earlier, whereas they also raided a They raided the home of another aide of Kathy Hochul's, of course, of governor of New York State, and that was though was related to a spy activity. She was allegedly a CCP spy, so they raided her home, and they've been trying to figure out where all of that money has been going. She received millions of dollars from the Chinese government. So I mean, there's a lot of corruption going on right now in New York. If you think about that, now was Kathy Hochul involved? Probably not. Probably not. But were there other people involved? Possibly. There's again, we talked earlier about how New York City, we have all these military and hazmat trucks and a lot going on. And then we find out yesterday the New York NYPD police commissioner's home was raided. They took his cell phone, confiscated it. There were two other aides of Mayor Eric Adams' homes raided. There's a lot going down. So those are some things to keep an eye on. And so I want to switch gears a little bit. Senator Chuck Grassley, speaking of Donald Trump. Now, do you guys remember, gosh, what was this, a couple years ago, when it, when we, the United States, unalived General Qasem Soleimani? Do you remember that? And he was the leader of, I don't even recall anymore which terror group. He might have been related to Hezbollah. I'd have to go back and look, but he was in Iran and one of the people that Iran really looks up to. And we took him out over something he did. It was a retaliatory strike that we did. Well, apparently Senator Grassley is claiming that Iran and Iranian proxies are targeting or did target Donald Trump, Nikki Haley, Joe Biden, and they wanted and were plotting to assassinate the three of them: Donald Trump, of course, Nikki Haley, and Joe Biden. Now, let's just say if that's true. If, in fact, these Iranian proxies were going to assassinate Donald Trump and Joe Biden, Nikki Haley, so we know that there just was an assassination attempt against Donald Trump. Was that, and by the way, I don't know if you know, but Donald Trump very publicly said that Iran was behind that assassination attempt. He said that himself in public, that Iran was behind that assassination attempt. So then you got to double around and ask the other questions. Well, then what about Thomas Crooks? What about Maxwell Urich? And I know some of you have probably heard me talk about Maxwell Urich. Some of you have not. If you're new to the show, you probably haven't. But Maxwell Urich, he was there that day too. He was an explosives expert out of Arizona. He was the person who the white van belonged to. Remember, if they confiscated that white van and it had the IEDs, that had the explosives in the white van that was parked just outside of the rally. Well, that van belonged to Maxwell Urich. You're not hearing his name on mainstream news, are you? Nope, not hearing it. But he was there. Where is he? Was he arrested? I don't have the faintest clue. But I know that Maxwell Urich and I know that Thomas Crooks knew each other. They both used the same shooting range as the Department of Homeland Security. I think it was called the Clarion Sportsman's Club, something along those lines. And how did they not all know each other? Come on now. So we have to ask the big question then. Did Iran or did Iranian proxies, did they hire or somehow target Maxwell Urich and Thomas Crooks to carry out the assassination attempt? I mean, don't you have to ask that? If Trump is saying that Iran is behind the assassination attempt, and then we know that Thomas Crooks is the person who was on the roof that was shot and killed, we know Maxwell Urich owns the van. How can you not tie them all together? We know that Thomas Crooks had those 3 encrypted accounts. So then you have to start wondering, well, how did Thomas Crooks and Matthew Urich come into contact with anyone from Iran who would have possibly put them in charge of doing this? And then you've got to start thinking, okay, well, did they pay him to do this? Did he think he was going to do it and get away with it? I have always more questions than answers, but that's something to think about. That's coming directly from Senator Chuck Grassley. So I hope they find out more about that. I hope they keep on it, because I would really like to know the connection between Iran and Thomas Crooks and Maxwell Urich. Every time there's an assassination like this, where somebody's either successfully assassinate someone, or in this case, was unsuccessful, I always think, what was in their mind? Why would they do this? Do they do it out of principle because they really hate these people and they want to take them out? Or do they do it and they think they're going to get away with it? Or do they not care? Do they think, for whatever my ideology is, I'm going to take this person out, and it's okay if I don't make it out alive. I don't understand the thinking when it comes to these things. It makes no sense to me at all. But what does make sense to me is how the FBI has handled the investigation. Of course, the FBI at the very top, tippy top of the ladder at the FBI is completely corrupt. Of course, I love the people on the ground, the field agents. They're good people trying to do their jobs. But man, the folks up at the top, as you guys heard, we've talked about this. They cremated Thomas Crook's body before the investigation was even complete. He was gone. The FBI released his body. They didn't even tell the medical examiner. The medical examiner had no idea that the FBI released his body for cremation. So therefore, what was it? Senator Higgs came in. Was it Higgs? Senator Higgs came in to, I think it was Clay Higgs. Does that sound right? He came in to identify the body. He was going to look at it, do some of an investigation, which is his right to do. And nope, body's gone. Sorry, you can't take a look. Come on now. And then just the fact that they're not talking about Maxwell Urich at all. Things to think about, Robert. Are smart loony Dems finally getting it? Billionaire Mark Cuban says if Kamala Harris taxes unrealized gains, it will kill the stock market. You're so right, Robert. I almost played a video today of Mark Cuban saying exactly that. I almost did. And I thought, I can't stand that guy. Like, I don't even want to see his face. But yes, he did say that. And you're right, Robert. People are waking up. People are waking up, and they're starting to understand, you know what? We like to keep our wealth. We like to drive nice cars. We like to travel and have these vacations. You can't do any of those things under communism. So I think people are going to wake up. Now, they may still not like Donald Trump, but they may realize that the alternative of Harris is not getting them very far. I don't think Harris, if in a free and fair election, would have any chance whatsoever at beating Donald Trump. Not just Donald Trump, but just about anyone besides her. Robert, cremation of the shooter reminds me of 9/11 crime scene, fastest cleanup in liberal New York history. You better believe that. You better believe that. We know that's how they operate, don't we? Man. So, and that brings me, speaking of shooters, we know that Colt Gray, who of course was the was the shooter in Appalachia High School, Barrow County, Georgia. Did you hear yesterday, and I'm sure you did, that his father has been arrested? His father, Colin Gray, has been arrested. I believe his father's 53 years old, and he was charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder, 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, and 8 counts of cruelty to children. So my question always is, should parents be held responsible for what their children do? Should they be held responsible? And that's a tough case for me, because sometimes I think they should. I think sometimes if parents were held responsible, the children, maybe they would keep their children in line a little bit better. But at the same time, I also know that kids have their own minds. There are times when you can be the best parent. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. You can be the best parent a person can be, and your child is still going to do something they shouldn't do. And you cannot necessarily prevent it. You can't necessarily know about it. And in that case, I think exactly, Robert, case by case decision. I think it has to be a case by case decision. And in this case, I haven't heard all of the facts yet with Colin Gray and his son Colt Gray. I don't know. Did Colin Gray leave a weapon out, knowing that his son had already been under investigation for making threats about shooting up a school? If he did, then that's definitely negligence on his part. I don't think a parent should be charged with murder, second-degree murder, or involuntary manslaughter. I certainly don't think that. I think maybe negligence, or there should be maybe something in this case, but I don't necessarily think it should be murder. I mean, I have a child, and God forbid if he did something crazy, and I didn't know about it, didn't know to prepare, didn't know anything about it, and then I go to prison for murder because of something he did, or any of you, most of you probably have children. Mary said, so if a dad bought a knife for a kid for gutting fish, and the kid stabs and kills someone, arrest the dad. I say no. That's exactly right, Mary. That's a really good analogy. You don't know always what your children are going to do. But again, case by case basis, because in this case, Colin Gray, if he did in fact have a weapon in the house, if he did in fact allow easy access, and I don't know that he did, I'm just speculating here. If he did, then I can understand why they might charge him with something, but not second degree murder, not involuntary manslaughter. The cruelty to children, I really don't understand that charge and what's going on there. Robert, from what I am aware of, the father is guilty. He stated to the FBI his guns are secured, so his son couldn't get at them. I hadn't heard any statement. Joe, I agree 100%. It needs to be a case by case situation, and we do not know all the facts yet. We certainly do not know all the facts yet. Eddie, I think it depends on the age, and Allison, not murder. Somebody said on my Facebook page that, it's a slippery slope. If you start charging parents for the crimes of their children, where does it end? Where does it begin? Where does it end? It turns into a really big gray area that most people do not want to delve into. And we saw this. I can't recall right now the name of the other shooter and the other shooting situation that took place not too long ago. Was that the school in Texas? I believe it was. And in that situation, they also charged the parents. I watched some of the court case, and I don't think that's a just way to handle these types of situations. I believe maybe in some cases a charge is necessary, but not all. Now, in this case with Colt Gray, I have heard some crazy stuff, and I don't know if it's true. I certainly don't consider it to be factual, but I believe that family members of his have been posting online and talking about the very difficult childhood that he's had, and the fact that he's lived through a lot of things at such a young age. What those things are, I don't know. What I do know is that he and his two younger siblings lived with their father, were being raised by their father. I heard, again, allegedly, not a fact, just allegedly, that they didn't have a relationship with their mother any longer. I don't know why, or if it's even true. Robert, the Oxford, Michigan shooter's parents were both found to. That's it. That's it. Thank you, Robert. Oxford, Michigan. I would say I knew it was a case that was fairly recent, where the parents were both charged and found guilty. And I watched that play out in court. And it's hard. If you make a gun, if you know your child is a dangerous person, if you know that they're capable and have made threats, and you make a weapon easy access, then I could see charges. And like Joe Lynette said, we don't know all the facts. We certainly don't. And allegedly, the father said his weapons were secure. And of course, kids, you know how kids are. You can secure things in the best possible way, and they will still find ways to get them. But that's not the father's fault, in my opinion. I think the father, as an American, has every right to protect himself. Therefore, he has every right to legally have guns if he's allowed to legally have them. So I don't know. We'll see how all this plays out, how it all plays out. But I really think that we need to keep an eye on these cases, and we need to see what's happening, because we cannot set a precedent that every time he's a minor. He's not, if he was 18 years and older, obviously nothing to do with the parents, unless they handed him the weapon and said, hey, go do it. But if you're a minor, and you're under 18 years of old, you're living at your parents' home, and you commit a crime, I really would like to define what is and is not the parent's responsibility. Murder charges, no. But like you guys said, case by case basis, that is all we can do to look into it. So we'll see how that plays out. Looking forward to learning more facts, because the more we know about these situations, the more we can do to prevent them in the future. Now, of course, we already know what this is going to lead to. It's going to lead to gun buybacks. It's going to lead to all of these different things, of course, because the number one thing they want to do is shut you up, silence you, take away your First Amendment rights to speech. The second thing they want to do is they want to take away your guns. We all know that, don't we? You see it coming. I see it coming. We know it's going to happen. It wouldn't even surprise me if we don't get to a point in this country where they go door to door at some point and force you to turn over your weapons. It would not surprise me at all. And I hope all of you have taken precautions, if you know what I mean, about those types of situations, because I'll tell you, under Harrison walls, nothing surprises me because obviously they would love to disarm us. They would love to do that. I see it happening. I don't know if I'm crazy, but I see it happening. And so we have to do what we have to do to protect our First Amendment rights and our Second Amendment rights, those two things. Because when those two things are gone, there is nothing we can do. We will be lost. You'll never be heard of. You won't even be able to speak out to talk about it. So man, we've got to be careful. Mary Tainter, all there. It's agents. I'm not sure what you mean, Mary, but were you trying to say IRS agents? Yes, IRS agents who are now weaponized against Americans, of course, because you don't pay your taxes. They're going to come and drag you out of your home with with weapons, right? That's kind of where things are going in this country. Harris Walls, we all know that they don't want you to have a gun. They don't want you to be able to protect yourselves. And when a shooting like this happens, and I am not going down the rabbit hole, the conspiracy trail that this was planned or anything along those lines. I think this is just what it is, and what we know is what we know. But it could happen. Something could happen between now and the election to have them have the ability to just come out and talk about taking your guns. It's so weird. Have you ever had like a deja vu moment? I just had the weirdest deja vu moment where if I spaced out for a second, because it was like I've been here before, standing here before, talking to you guys about this exact same thing and talking about a different shooting, though. It was really strange, which is good because we're going to talk about deja vu incidents and things like that here in a few minutes. It's just weird. Has that ever happened to you where you're doing something? It's never happened to me on camera before, but where you're talking about something, you're doing something, and you have this weird deja vu moment, like you've done this before and you've talked about this before. It was the strangest thing ever that just happened. Anyway, we're going to move on from that, and then we're going to come back to the deja vu stuff here in just a minute. One last little real news item, and then we're going to carry on with some fun stuff. So if you're just tuning in and you want to hear some real news, you might want to go back to about 7:10 when we start talking about the real news, because then we're going to start talking about some crazy fun stuff. You guys say yes all the time. Deja vu moments actually don't happen to me very often. And it's so weird that just happened to me just now. I'll have to go back and look at my eyes on camera. I'll be like, man, was I spaced out? What was going on? Because I just completely lost my track of thought, thinking in my head, like, man, I remember standing here at this computer, looking at this camera, talking exactly about this. But there was an element like in the back of my head that happened in that deja vu moment I saw that didn't happen now. And so I was kind of thinking about that, like, what in the world is going on? Karen says yes, and I don't like it. I don't either, but there's something to deja vu that I don't understand. And I guess none of us do. So one last little piece of real news before we head on to some fun stuff. BRICS. They're doing everything they can to make sure BRICS doesn't have the opportunity to meet in October, because they really want to, they being the cabal that runs this country, they really want to stop BRICS from getting together. Think about this, 54 nations coming together at the BRICS summit in October. And right on the heels of Russia announcing, I don't know if you guys have heard this yet or not, Russia has announced that starting this month, September, they are going to start selling oil for gold. So if a country wants to purchase oil from Russia, they can pay for it in gold. And Russia said they want to increase their gold wealth. They want to build up their depository of gold. And they're going to do that by selling oil. So think about that. All 54 of these countries who are meeting at BRICS, all of them are going to say that they are going to stop transacting in the US dollar. That's exactly what's going on. So when you start seeing people freaking out talking about the dollar and the financial system here in the United States crashing and how it's imminent. That this is what the base of it is. Because when all of these different foreign countries decide that they no longer want to transact in the US dollar, the US dollar goes down, way down. It's going to become potentially useless. It's already lost, what, 86% of its value in the past 50 years. And we already know that BRICS now controls the higher GDP. And therefore, we have already lost our status as the most powerful nation. And NATO is going down, the UN's going down. So think about all these things. I'm not going to get into it because we got a lot of other better, fun things to talk about today. But there's going to be a lot going on with BRICS. We'll be talking a little bit more about BRICS before the summit takes place in October. Because as the summit, approaches, things are going to get crazy. We're going to be talking a lot more about the dollar and the financial system and what's going to happen when BRICS does officially assume the power of being wealthier, certainly wealthier, more powerful than NATO, more powerful than the G7. And they already are, but they haven't, I guess, really been putting their weight around too much, but that's going to happen soon. Mary, will Kamala get COVID before the debate? I think that they would probably like her. I think Democrats, what I don't understand about the Democrat Party, I don't understand this part of it, is that we have this cabal that runs the country, right? And they're so powerful. There are all these big, multi-billionaire type folks. Couldn't they find somebody better? I don't understand it. Couldn't they find somebody better than Harris? We know they chose Harris to get the vote. That's why she became the VP. But how in the world? I mean, couldn't they choose somebody better than Biden? But surely couldn't they chose somebody better than Harris? Haven't they had all this time to groom another Obama? I don't understand how Harris ever got into the position that she's in here now. But I have heard, the little behind the scenes chatter that Obama did not want her there. It happened by some type of happenstance, and that she is the last person they want to be in this position because they took a long time to groom Obama to be the person that he is. I mean, did they not have like an Obama 2, 3, 4, 5 lined out to take over this role? It's very confusing to me that didn't happen. And Mary says, won't matter, just new puppet. You're right. It is just a new puppet. But the problem with Harris is that she's not smooth. She can't get away with the things that Obama got away with because she's not smooth. She can't talk. She can't give a speech. She can't debate. Can't wait to see the debate. She's not good at anything. And and I've heard she has a serious drinking problem, allegedly. So there's a lot going on there. Will she? Will she not? We will see. Jim Prophet, Kim Clement said that they would do everything they could to get a witch into the White House. Ooh, I never thought about her being a witch. You never know. Dottie, supposed to be Pelosi. Yeah, Pelosi, she's on her last days. Joe, is there any way to disable scrolling to another video when you are scrolling the chats? I'm not sure what you mean, Joe. Is there a way to disable scrolling to another video when you are scrolling the chat? I'm not sure what you mean exactly, but I don't see the same screen you guys see. What I see is the producer side, so I don't see the same thing you do. So I apologize, Joe, that I'm not sure what you mean. Mary, I can't handle the big mouth laughing. I can't even that crazy cackle. She is, Amy, exactly like a hyena. Sorry, Joe, I'm trying to think of what you mean here by disabling scrolling to another video when you are scrolling to the chat. I don't know what that means. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know. So let's get into some things here, right? It's about time, isn't it? It's after 8 o'clock, but I started late today, so we still have almost an hour to get into some of these things. So let's just start here. We talked about Trump, the attempted assassination, right? Have you ever heard that Joe says if you scroll too far down, you leave your show and go to a different video? Oh, yeah, I don't know. Joe. I don't know anything about that. I'm sorry. Later on, I'll practice and see if I can figure that out for you because I don't know offhand. But it happens to me all the time when I'm scrolling a video, and then the next thing I know, I flip to somebody else's video. And I think when you join the show live, I don't think it allows you to go backtrack to the beginning. You have to wait until the show's over, and then you can start again and replay it from the beginning. But I don't think you can do that while it's midstream live. So we've also often talked about, if you've listened to me on other shows, I've talked about UFOs and different things in the past because I love talking about these things. The crazier, the weirder a story is, the more I like to talk about it because I'm absolutely fascinated by the weird. And, or I should say the fact that people don't tell us. Oh, UFOs. When we talk about UFOs, we talk about, they, we, if you have a site of conflict, let's say if there's a war going on, very often you hear that there are UFOs who come and visit. UFO sightings are more prevalent during any type of conflict. And as a matter of fact, I read to you, whoever was listening, back when I was on Cancel This, I talked about this. And back during when the Ukraine and Russia war first began, there were astronomers in the Ukraine who talked about this. And then, of course, the report disappeared pretty quick. But they said that, oh, we see UFOs all the time. We're always looking at the skies. They said during this conflict that's taking place, this was when Russia first went into Ukraine. They said, we see them every day over Ukraine flying around, different types of UFOs. And I thought that was really wild because you hear that so often. Anytime there's a natural disaster, you hear about UFO sightings. And I personally, now this is my personal belief. I know already you guys are not going to agree with me, and that's okay. I don't. You don't have to agree with everything I say, of course. Because I don't know. I'm only speculating. I always think that a lot of times UFOs are future civilizations or somehow people who have the ability to travel back in time. And they come back in time to look at events that somehow change the world later on. So it could be that there's a volcano eruption and almost, or maybe it's like a field trip for people from the future. We go to the museum, they travel back in time and look at past catastrophes or things that somehow maybe ended up in future history. And so I think sometimes when you see UFOs, let's say over Ukraine, it could be that, 2,000 years from now, whatever future civilizations are around have learned to travel back in time. And they say, okay, well, let's go back at that Ukrainian conflict and let's take a look how all that played out. Because back then, these people were stupid and thousands of people were killed senselessly over what, and so that's what I think. Now, again, I could be completely wrong. And I think when we have natural disasters, it's the same thing. People go back and they go and they observe. It could be scientists from the future, it could be tourists from the future. I don't know. But that is my personal theory. And it's okay if you don't agree. So, the Trump assassination, I'm going to show this photo to you guys right here. And you can see, do you see in the red circle? Try to make that bigger for you. Do you see in the red circle there? That allegedly is a UFO. Is it? Is it not? I don't know. Let's see here. I don't know if I don't think I have any way to make this bigger. And if I do, I might accidentally shut myself off. But I want you to take a look at that. See, that's the same flag, if you can see the two flags here. And in the red circle, you see this little blip. And to me, I mean, this could be easily explained as an airplane. I'd have to see the video. There's other things, but is it possible that that's a UFO? And if it is, why would they be there? Is it possible that this attempted assassination with Donald Trump somehow plays out to be a much bigger deal than what we know right now? And Allison, you're absolutely right. There's no way of telling. And that's what's so interesting about the things we're going to talk about is because there is no way to know. All the things we're going to talk about today, there is no way to know. We can speculate all we want, but there is absolutely no way to know the truth. And that is the case all the time, when it comes to UFOs. And I'm going to show you this photo here. Now, I read a story. I shared the longer story on my Telegram channel about someone who had this type of alien encounter. And they took this photo here, now that we're talking about aliens. And then after this, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about some other phenomena and the Freemasons and some other interesting things. But take a look at this. Now, to me, those look like wind-up toys, don't they? Like, what's that little thing there on the back? I think those look like wind-up toys. I don't know what these things are. Jim, I have heard it said that Trump is a time traveler. It's talked about in the documentary called Fall of the Cabal. I've watched that and I have heard that myself. Uh-oh, breaking news. Robert, Ripple co-founder and executive chairman Chris Larson endorses Kamala Harris. What? What? Man, am I going to have to sell all my Ripple? What is wrong with these people? Why would they do that? Trump's all about currency and Ripple and XRP. Man, Robert ruined my day there. All right. So allegedly, these are aliens. If you want to look at my Telegram page, you can see a little bit of a better photo of that. I'm going to show one more video, UFO. This is a very common video that we see. Hopefully, I can find it here. And it's a very common UFO type sighting. Let's look at this here. Now, you got to look carefully a couple times. I turn the sound off because there's no point in listening to it. But we'll play this a couple of different times. And I think this is a very common what most people see as UFOs. You know, you see the sometimes they see the different orbs that come together, and those orbs will end up forming a threesome going through the sky, or sometimes it's more than three different things. And is it a UFO? Sometimes I think these things can be explained by being drones or being, different types of objects. So I don't know. Now these people claim, we'll come back to that video later. I don't even know where that came from. And so these people claim they went out to the area where they saw, this UFO crash and this creature came out of the woods. That I don't believe that whatsoever. So I'm not going to show you that part. But when it comes to UFOs, Matt Getz, he has gone out. He is part of the investigative committee in Congress, has gone out, and he has done a lot of research on UFOs, because we know Donald Trump, of course, plans on talking about UFOs. If Donald Trump wins this election, he said he is going to reveal everything there is to know. Everything there is to know. And Allison says, I am an early morning person, can't sleep. I am on my porch with a telescope frequently. I love space. I have seen and videoed things that are unexplainable. We live in a country and have great sky views. I do too. And I spend a lot of time going out and looking at the sky. I have a Jeep and I, often drive with the top off. And I probably look at the sky, I think, more than most people. Now, I personally have never seen any anomaly. I have never seen anything strange in the sky. However, I still do believe that it's true. As a matter of fact, there was a long time ago, and I used to have it saved. I don't know what happened to it now, but there was a little blip that I saw pop up where the government was warning people not to shine these great big laser beams into space, like big, powerful flashlights. And they said it was dangerous. And I thought, well, that's odd. And they were talking about, of course, UFOs at the time. And they said, don't try to contact extraterrestrials. Don't try to contact other forms of life. It could be very dangerous. And I thought, well, that is the weirdest thing I've ever heard. And then I saw Stephen Hawking talking about the same thing. And he said, what's happening is these other beings, they are actually very dangerous, and you should not make attempt to contact them. So then I started thinking, well, if I sit in my backyard with a big, powerful flashlight, shining it up into space, could I make contact? I mean, if they're telling us not to, they must think that we have a reasonable possibility that we could, even though I don't see how that's the case. And then we have Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. Do you all know this story about what happened to her? If you don't, certainly read it. You can read more than what we're talking about. Lane Nick says, never do that. Lane, I did do that one time because I was just curious. I sat out in my backyard just playing around and, I have a very powerful flashlight and shining it up in the sky, and nothing happened. Maybe it was just my lucky night. I don't know. Maybe my flashlight wasn't powerful enough. I'm not in a flight path, so I don't have to worry about airplanes flying over or anything like that. And so anyway, Anna Paulina Luna, Congresswoman, back in, let me get the date here, in January 26, 2023, there was a pilot at Elgin Air Force Base right there off the coast of Florida. If you're familiar with where Elgin Air Force Base is, it's an area where they do training. If you've ever been to this area, I've vacationed before in Navarre Beach, Florida. And at night when they're doing their training, it sounds like you're in the middle of a war zone. I remember being there and sitting out. We didn't know that we were that close to Elgin Air Force Base. and that they did their training out there along the coastline. And it was late at night. We're sitting around outside on the patio, and you hear machine guns and pop, 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 and helicopters. And you're like, what in the world is going on? Are we being invaded or what? And then we found out that it was, of course, training for Elgin Air Force Base. They do some of the SEAL training there as well, I hear. And so allegedly, one of these pilots, not allegedly, it actually happened, a pilot saw three different types of UFOs that night. It was a formation similar to what I just showed you, where there was a formation of three different UFOs, and they came in and came out and whizzed past him, and he reported it. Well, Anna Paulina Luna, again, U.S. Congresswoman, decided to investigate it, and she has the right to do that, being on the committee of, I believe, I'm not sure if I wrote down her committee, but she is on the oversight committee. And so she has the right to conduct her own independent investigation. Her and Matt Getz both looked into the same UFO sighting, and they went to Elgin Air Force Base, and they attempted to talk to people there about this UFO sighting, and they wouldn't let them in. They would not talk to them. She talked to the commander there at Elgin Air Force Base. He wouldn't talk to her. So she, according to her, gave him a piece of her mind and explained to him that she, being on the oversight committee, has every right, and that she outranks him. She has every right to be there at the Air Force Base investigating this incident, and that she has every right to look at files that he has available on this sighting. Of course, he said it never happened. And then she ended up leaving, going back, dropping the investigation because she didn't get anywhere at the Air Force Base. Then a whistleblower came forward and contacted her and said, you know what? They're not telling you everything. There is more to this story with the UFO that was seen that day in January of 2023, and gave her some additional information. Well, she decided to pick up the investigation. Matt Gaetz and Anna Paulina Luna decided to go back to Elgin Air Force Base. They were able to get a meeting with the commander there. And when they attended the meeting, they said she referred to it as being very strange, because they went into this room and there were all these people there that she feels were the, infamous men in black, who she believes are CIA agents. And as they sat in this meeting, they told her nothing. They absolutely refused to talk about it at all. And the commander, she said, just got up and walked out and took a break. And she said that was completely unprecedented, that when you have a delegation at your facility, you do not get up and leave the room and take a break. And she feels like when he got up and left to take a break, that something happened, that he, maybe she alleged, she didn't come out and say it, she alleged that maybe they used some men in black tricks, on the people in the room. Is that true? I don't know. According to Anna Paulina Luna, that's what she alleges, that it was a men in black type experiment with these CIA agents that were in the room with her. But I think it was interesting that they would not give her any information. Now, Luna claims that she does have access to some of the files from the investigations of different UFO sightings. And she said that she absolutely does believe, based on the files that she's looked at, that there are other beings, and that the technology we used was formulated from other beings. But she explained that these are not extraterrestrials. They are not people from another planet. They are not people from out in the galaxy. She described them as being interdimensional beings, but not human. And I don't really understand what that means. Good morning, Lane. I don't know what maybe you guys know. What exactly is an international or interdimensional being that's not human? What would that be? I mean, I don't think it would be like a ghost or a spirit. I don't understand what an interdimensional being would be, but she said not an alien, not an extraterrestrial. And she I don't think she has probably access to all of the files. I know some people pretty high up in the military who don't have access to those files. So I don't know what files she has. Landon says demons, maybe, that's kind of what first came to my mind was demons, because we have so much talk about the occult and different things going on. Could it be? I don't know. I'm going to have to really do some research on what an interdimensional being is because my mind just can't seem to grasp what that is. But we know there are different things going on that are completely unexplainable that we just don't know. And, UFOs is one of those things where I absolutely do believe that there's so much unknown to us. And alien abductions. Long time ago, most of you guys do not know this about me, but I actually used to be a hypnotist. Strange enough, that's how I got my start doing radio back in the day. And I had my own little hypnotherapy office. And during my training to become a hypnotist, one of the things that we did as an exercise is we had people come in that there was a group of people who all said they had been abducted by aliens. I mean, these were very normal people, accountants, fast food workers, executives, CEOs of companies, for people from all walks of life. And all of these people, I listened to their stories. And I have to tell you, I believed all of them. These people were there. I don't think it was a dream. Some of the stories that they told us were really unbelievable. And all of the stories had the same things in common, which I thought was interesting. And if you go out, you can read the stories. The people that I talked to that day and the people that we sat and listened to their stories wasn't anything really too crazy, that came out of those talks. Your typical story of they were sleeping at night or they were out in the woods, by themselves and came across some a UFO. Next thing they knew, some of them claimed they were examined painfully, medically. Others said that they were actually fixed, that some type of surgery was performed on them, some type of healing was performed on them. And so the stories kind of ranged there. And Jim says there's a guy named Billy Sessions from Arkansas who talks about interdimensional beings. He says they absolutely do exist. Yeah, I'm getting chills thinking about it. Landon says the study of demonology always tends to believe that extraterrestrial encounters are related to demons. And I've heard that, Landon. A lot of people say that's biblical also, that they are demons. I don't know. I'm going to look into that. I'm going to look up Billy Sessions. And I don't know who that is, and I don't know his story. But I'm very curious about what these interdimensional beings are and what we see. Anything at this point wouldn't surprise me. I'm one of those people, you could call me and tell me that you were laying in your bed last night and 5 aliens, walked into your room and took you to their spaceship. And, I'm going to listen to you. I'll take it with a grain of salt. I'm not going to judge you for it because I think crazy things happen. I really do. I think crazy things happen to people. And I think that people are scared to tell their stories. They don't really know what to say. And I think it happens more often than we know. I think there are a lot of people out there who have these abduction stories because I'll tell you what, the class that I took in which these people were there, talking about their abduction stories, it was here in St. Louis. There was over 50 people there, local people who live in St. Louis who had abduction stories. I think people are scared. That was the main thing they talked about. And the reason why they were there that day, by the way, is that you can use hypnotherapy to try to get out a little bit more detail from someone's subconscious. So that's what we were working on that day when we were talking to these folks. And I'm telling you, I believed some of them. Robert, is a cyber pandemic incoming? What is a cyber pandemic? It is a virus that will shut down the internet. Just think about the problems of the grid down for 3 months or more. It could happen. It could definitely happen. No question about it. We are very unstable when it comes to that. A lot of people ask, are ghosts, demons, aliens, are they all the same thing? I don't think that they are. I really don't. I don't think they're the same thing. And I would be curious if you guys have had your own experiences with, if you have seen, let's say, a UFO, if you feel like you've been abducted, if you feel that you've witnessed something really unusual, you know what? Definitely tell me. I would love to know. And I don't have my little ticker running, so I forgot to turn it on. But you can text me at 314-546-2677 because I would love to hear your story. And I will never mention your name. I promise you that, but I would love to tell your story on the show because I think it happens far more often than we even know. Lane says, I don't know much about that. I'm not a psych physicist, But they say multiple universes, and what you were talking about, a man that I know works at Area 51, he can't say anything, but he will smile, I bet. I have my own view. I have a lot of my own views on these things because I probably spend more time than the average person thinking about them. I think about levels of atmosphere. I don't think I've ever talked about this on the show before. Maybe I have, I don't know. But I think that there are different levels of atmosphere, and within those levels, there are different types of life, if that makes sense. And the levels beyond what we can see, we don't know about. As an example, um, there are certain life forms that live in the ocean, right? They cannot live here on the surface. They live in the ocean. We people, we live on the surface of the earth. We're surface dwellers. We cannot live in the ocean, correct? Well, when scientists go down, not always scientists, sometimes it's divers, different types of people go down to the very bottom depths of the ocean. Obviously, they come across completely different life forms. Now, those life forms cannot live in the upper levels of the ocean, and the fish that live in the upper levels of the ocean can't live in the deeper levels of the ocean because the atmosphere is different, the pressure is different, the density is different. And then a while back they found a river at the bottom of the ocean. Do you guys remember that? I have some photos of it somewhere I can show you guys at some point. Well, a diver went down, I've seen the photos of it, where there's a river at the very bottom floor of the ocean, and it was the strangest weird thing for me to see, because when you looked at it, it looked like it was a river here in my backyard or something. You could see the stream go, you could see the water flowing down the river, and you could see that there were trees down there at this river. There were trees. And it looked like fallen leaves. I kid you not, it was not an altered photo. It's a strange thing. My mind had such a hard time wrapping itself around this. But what was interesting is the diver could not dive into that river. The water was too dense to dive into it. You could see it. As a matter of fact, it was so weird that you could swear it was just outside your front door. That's the difference between the ocean and the river at the bottom of the ocean. It was so strange to me. And of course, there's probably different types of life forms inside that river that can't exist in the ocean, even at the deepest levels. So I really do wonder if, as we start at the core of the earth, there are different types of life starting at the core, because we don't know. There probably is some type of life form down at the core of the earth. We don't know because we've not been there. And so let's say each level of atmosphere, each level of density, there's something a little different that supports a different type of life form. And of course, that density changes as you go up, of course, into our atmosphere and beyond. And then you have to start thinking, what about the atmosphere around us? Have you ever seen the video of what bees see? It's so strange to me. Bees, allegedly, I don't know how they know what bees see, quite honestly. But there is a video out there that talks about what bees see. And we look like little sparklers to them, little flecks of light. They don't see us like as a whole person. They see little flecks of light sparkling. And I thought, well, that's really weird, because that kind of opens up a theory that maybe we don't see what's around us. Maybe where I'm standing right now, maybe where you're standing right now, maybe there are interdimensional beings or different types of life all around us, but our eyes cannot see them because our eyes can't see everything. And so I didn't really plan on going down that road today, but it took me there. And so I was really thinking about that. Beatrice, what an awesome Friday. Such a welcome change from our other troubles. Thank you, Beatrice, for joining us today. I probably sound completely off my rocker talking about some of this stuff, and that's okay. I honestly don't care, because these are the things I think about in my head, because I'm always thinking, what is really around us? What is really there? And then I'm going to show you guys some videos, because then you start thinking, okay, like this one. Take a look at this video. I'll probably play it twice so you guys can get a good look at this. What is this? Can this be explained? Let's take a look. I'm going to turn the video off. I mean, the sound off, because we don't need to see the sound. But look at this. Do you see that? It's like a shadow, something running across. Is there an explanation for that? And I've seen countless videos. This is just one video. Some people could say, oh, it was a person running and the camera didn't catch it. And, just there's different things here. See that? Is that something, or is it just a trick of the camera? Robert says, sure, eyes are a certain frames per second. I think that is why people who are about to pass speed up and can see what we can't normally. I agree completely on that, Robert. So you can see there's some kind of a shadowy figure back there. So what is that shadowy figure? I don't know. I don't see it anymore, but the arrow is pointing at. So do you see that? What exactly is that? And do you believe, is it an anomaly? Is it real? I don't know. Let's forward that up a little bit. I don't want to keep seeing that. I think there's something else at the end of this video. Here we go. So do you see that? It's like, it looks like a person. Is it a person? Is it a trick of the camera? Or is something really there? Now, these people claim, of course, there's nothing there. I'll turn the sound back on. I don't think there's much more to the sound. But it does make you wonder, doesn't it? I've ran into people who claim that they've seen like shadowy beings like that. Now, to me, some of these look like they could be a kind of a trick of the camera, is kind of what I think. Kind of a trick of the camera. I don't know. I know I have trail cams up around the house, outside of the house, I should say. And there are times I see some weird stuff on the trail cam. And I'm always like, what exactly is that? Is it a ghost? Is it, I don't ever think it's a ghost, but as a matter of fact, last night I didn't share, I didn't save a photo of it. Last night, my trail cam, different trail cams alert me when it sees something. And last night, I'm sure it was an animal, but it woke me up in the middle of the night and it was like a light. It was like two little glowy eyes. I'm thinking, okay, probably a raccoon or something else, but you couldn't see the outline of any kind of body. So I know it was probably a raccoon or a fox or something else outside. So I know that cameras can play tricks on you. Something can look like something that it's not. So that every time I see these types of videos, I thought, what exactly are we looking at? Is it explainable? Is it a real phenomena? I don't know. Let's see here. Lori, you absolutely do not. All of it is fascinating. I can get sucked into it all. The only thing I don't get into is the ghost shows. My husband loves them. Everything they show is just so to get people to watch them. I agree with you on that. And you're right, Landon. Those shows destroyed any reputable investigator. Also true, because they do distract. There are people who I try to watch these videos with a grain of salt because I'm always thinking, well, a lot of the videos that I came across when I was putting this together yesterday, last night, I was looking at the videos and I thought, oh, that would be so easy for people to do that. The ones that I see where there's doors slamming, chairs moving, stuff like that, I thought it would be so easy to fake that. Now, that not to say that it's all fake, but it would be so easy to fake that. So I don't know. There was one of these videos, and I did have the sound down, so we didn't hear it. I'm going to go back to that. But I do wonder sometimes about these different things and what exactly we see. Let me see. It might take me a second to figure out which one is the one with the creepy sounds. I think it's this one. I think it's this one with the weird sound. So I'm going to turn the sound on.
It's coming from all directions. That's the plane. You hear that? Sounds like it's coming from over there. Sounds like it's coming from every direction.
I wish it didn't play music.
You hear that?
People make videos and it absolutely annoys me to no end. And I feel like messaging them all like, okay, you're trying to tell us you heard all these crazy noises, but then you put music over the background. Like, so how are you going to hear these creepy noises? But I've heard reports of these types of things where there are people in different towns all across the world who have heard different types of noises. from horns to howling to ghostly sounds to people screaming, all types of different things. And I personally have never heard anything, but I think it's really, really creepy. Allison, never seen a ghost, never seen an alien, but I've definitely seen strange things in the sky. I'll tell you, I've never seen, I've seen a couple weird things myself, Gosh, I probably nothing I haven't already told you guys, but there was a time when I used to have a house, and this house I lived in, it had belonged to devil worshippers. At the time I was young, wanted to buy, get my first house to rehab and sell. This was in 1992, I believe, 1992, 1991, something along those lines. So I lived in the house with my son, who was just a baby at the time, and with my ex, Darren, and we lived there. And when I first got the house, I thought it was strange because the person who sold it to us sold it for a very reasonable price. And he would not go inside of the house. He's like, "You can go in and look around, but I'm not going in there." And I just thought he was too busy to go in. I really didn't think too much about it. But when I went in, it was obvious that something strange had happened in this house because there was still food on the table. There was still food on the stove. There was still furniture there. And, we looked around a little bit. Down in the basement, there was this room off to the corner that had there was a mattress in there. I'm not kidding you at all, with a bloody knife. Why this guy left all this stuff there, I don't know. I'll never know what happened in that basement on that mattress. But around that room, there were all kinds of upside down crosses and spider webs with like painted spiders, all this pentagrams painted around the wall. And if you walked through the house, there was like red spray paint where they had spray painted all this weird junk in the house. And of course, being young, I'm like, I don't care about any of that. I just want to buy this house because it's really cheap. It's like a 4-bedroom house. It was big and it was very inexpensive. And I just wanted to buy the house, fix it up, and sell it or rent it out. That was the only thing on my mind. Never occurred to me that, gee, this house could be haunted because of this weird junk. There was a coffee table where somebody had cut out these little tiny eyes and pasted them from catalogs and pasted them all over the coffee table. I scraped the eyes off and kept the table. At the time, I just wasn't, I never really believed in any of that crazy stuff. Landon says he grew up in a haunted house, so never have thought much about it. Well, in this crazy house, one night, there was some weird stuff that happened. I'm not even going to get into all of it, but I'll give you the creepiest part is there was a night, Darren and I had gotten into an argument about something silly. And I was downstairs sleeping on the sofa, watching TV. He was upstairs in the bedroom going to sleep. Zachary was in his room sleeping. He was a baby at the time. And from upstairs, I could hear a noise that sounded like a ball bouncing. And then I heard it and listened to it. And all of a sudden, it bounced down the stairs and then bounced down the hallway where I was. Well, I thought that he was just playing a joke, playing around because we'd had a little bit of a heated moment and he was just trying to lighten the mood. And so I kind of yelled up, like, "Why are you, throwing toys down here?" He's like, "I didn't do that." And I thought, oh my God, that's strange. 2 seconds later, I heard a noise. I'm getting chills thinking about it that I can never explain to you, this noise that I heard. There is nothing that makes sense to this noise. And what it sounded like was really heavy footsteps, along with baby rattles and chains, all at the same time. And it made no sense at all. And it did the same thing. It came down the hallway. I heard it coming down the stairs, down the hallway, and right down into the basement. I am not kidding you. I swear to you that this happened. And it freaked us out so bad that we packed up and left the next day and never went back. Never went back to that house again. I don't know what that was, but I heard it. I got chills thinking about it, and it just went right down in the basement. And I will never forget it because whatever it was real. There was something there. I don't know what it was, but there was definitely something there. Big, heavy footsteps. Like I said, it sounded like baby rattles and chains at the same time. And we left. We never went back. In fact, tried to rent the house out. That didn't work out. And that house sat abandoned all these years. No one has, we were all too scared to go back. And I just saw my brother just sent me a photo the other day. We still own the house, but it finally got torn down the other day. We would not go back, never step foot in that house again. Terrifying is what that was. And so I would love to know if any of you guys have had experiences like that, because man, that was crazy, crazy for me. Landon, I would love to hear about your experiences in a crazy haunted house. I believe all that stuff. I've never seen anything, outside of that, but man, that was some freaky stuff. So, you just got to take it all with a grain of salt. Is it real? Is it not? If it is real, what is it? Interdimensional beings, spirits, I believe in my case, it was demonic in nature. Allison, a lady committed suicide in our garage, ooh, which we did not know when we bought it. Our neighbor said it was haunted by her. Overnight guests had weird experience, but nothing for me. That would probably freak me out. It probably would completely freak me out. I would have a hard time dealing with that. And I've been very lucky where I live now is very quiet. Nothing goes on. I've seen not a darn thing, thank God. But there is so much, and I would love to hear your experiences. All of these different videos. I'm going to show you one more video on ghosts, and then we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the Freemasons. And then after we talk about the Freemasons, we're going to talk about the flat earthers. But we've got about 20 minutes left. I have to cut the show at 2 hours because if I don't, then I can't use it later for a replay because I'm only allowed 2 hours. So I have to cut it right about then. But we've still got some time. So take a look at this. This to me, now this is about 3 minutes long. I don't know if I'll play the whole 3 minutes, but I'm very curious what you're talking about or what you're seeing here. And if you're listening and not watching, this is a rideshare driver who stops. The door opens, someone gets in, he's not looking, and then the door closes. But there's no one there, but there is there. But see, to me, I could see maybe this being a fake video where somebody's just bent down and then they raise back up. And I'm not going to play all of this because I think some of this stuff is just made up and fake. I see these videos all the time where, oh, I was out walking at night and I saw some weird being and this and that. All right, so that's enough of that. But the one in the rideshare car was strange, wasn't it? But is that real? Is it not real? I tend to think a lot of times when we see these that they're not real. Landon, let's see here. We named our primary visitor Hector. He was around 10 or 11 and seen him several times in my bedroom. Man, I had a hard time last night when I was pulling these videos up. I thought if I play these videos, if I look at these last night, I'll never be able to sleep. So I saved a bunch of them and looked at them this morning because that stuff really freaks me out. I don't like looking at it. I don't like looking at it. All right. So we will continue on with ghosts another day. Oh yeah, we did Shannon. Amy, I still talk to her once in a great while. We do need to get the Weedium on because man, she's got a lot of stuff to talk about, which I think is interesting. I'm going to jump into the Freemasons. I know that's not ghosts or goblins or UFOs, but it's all kind of tied together, isn't it? I think it's tied together. So, let's take a quick look here. One of the things that I want to mention before we look at this video, so just so you know what you're looking at, is that, first of all, Freemasons. My uncle is a Mason. They go up to the Mason Hall and they drink beer and play pool and hang out. There's no weird anything going on. They're not chanting or they don't have any secret rooms. They're not Illuminati or anything like that. There's absolutely not a darn thing going on at the Mason Lodge, quite honestly. But a lot of people believe that there is more to the Freemasons. So I'm going to show a couple videos to you guys. The number 33, if you think about it, I didn't even know this until yesterday. Well, the number 33, that's the highest rank you can reach as a Freemason is 33. And allegedly, since people believe that the Freemasons control the media, they're part of the cabal, that they throw the number 33 out there all the time as kind of a symbolism. And there's a couple things I'm gonna play for you. But first, I play a video about the number 33, and you can tell me what you think about this. This is one of those things that I see, and I think, this means absolutely nothing. Yes, you could go through tons of video and pull out anyone that says the number 33 and make it what you want. But there's a lot of people who believe this is true. And I don't want to take that away from those folks. Robert, above 33rd is the issue. Why the upside down star at the lodges? Well, we're getting ready to find out.
We have 33 confirmed positive tests.
We have 33 Pennsylvanians who have tested positive for
COVID-19.
Today we have 33 cases.
There were 33 new cases.
The state of Minnesota today reported 33 new COVID-19 related deaths.
There are 33 confirmed cases in Arkansas.
That's the largest single-day increase so far, raising the total to 33.
33.
There were 33 confirmed cases in North Carolina.
33.
There was 33 everywhere.
Yes.
I think that was Red Team Go. I think 33 is like Red Team Go. Everybody goes, okay, let's do it. It's time.
Yeah, 100%.
Dude, there's like literally 1,000 33s and 33 new cases. 33 people died in fucking Hong Kong.
The number 33, we all know what that represents. Everywhere, every single day, it was like, well, 12 more cases, which now brings the state to 33.
Yes.
We had 33 cases today. We had 11 cases, which now it's 33. 33 more people. I'm going, my God, how dumb do you have to see to not understand this is going on? That was green light go. We're off to the races.
You've been subject to propaganda and lies by people who are very well trained in how they do that. And if you find one thing your government has said which is clearly not true, I ask you this: why would you believe anything else?
All right, can you guys hear me? Because I can't find the show. It disappeared, and I don't know where it is, and I don't know if you guys can hear me or see me or anything else, but I was standing here and it was just gone. And I don't know where it is. I'm trying to find it now. It's this. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not, or if you can see me. I don't understand what's going on, where the show is. It's so strange. Can you guys hear me or see me? Because I don't see you or hear you. I don't. Oh, it popped back up. Now, how weird is that? How weird is that? It was like the whole screen, it just disappeared. It went completely blank. And I couldn't see anything. I couldn't find the show. There was nothing there but a black screen. So that is so weird. I was freaking out because I thought, oh my God, if the screen is gone, how am I going to end the show? Or how am I going to go back and even find it? So I don't know what happened there, but it was gone. That was so weird. If you guys could see me, you could probably see the frantic look on my face like, oh my God, what's happening? Where's the show? The Illuminati. It could be. It's probably these weirdos. Take a look at this. I think they're just playing around, don't you? Because this guy over here, he's like, how do I make that sign? I don't even know how to do that. I think they're just playing around. I don't think that's real. I've seen this video out there a lot. So what about the Freemasons? You guys, a lot of you guys probably. Oh yeah, Dottie says I was gone for 33 seconds. Maybe. The joke would be on me, wouldn't it? You know, I don't know a lot about the Freemasons. It's one of those things that, again, I have a hard time wrapping my head around. Is it real? Is it not real? Is the Illuminati real? You know, what's really going on? Do we really have people in the occult, running our country? Are the Freemasons really a cult? I don't know. I didn't play a video here. I shared it on my Telegram page, but it was the Bohemian Grove. Do you know what the Bohemian Grove is? And they said that the Masons, meet there. The Freemasons meet there every year for some type of, retreat. And if they do, that is a strange place. That is a very strange place. I saw a video from inside, which I thought that people couldn't even tour or get inside this Bohemian Grove. But there were people in there. They looked like kids who snuck in there and were videotaping. Sherry says Bohemian Grove is real and the Illuminati is real. Man, Sherry, I saw a video of this Bohemian Grove behind the scenes last night. Again, it looked like some kids had snuck in, and it was some weird stuff. And Allison says the Freemasons go back to the Crusaders. I kind of feel like so many things tie together, that a lot of it just doesn't make sense to me. And a lot of it I'm learning about, I'm reading about, I'm trying to understand what other people see. I do absolutely believe that there's a cabal that runs our country. I do believe there's other beings and that somehow they're involved in our government. I really do think that. Are they interdimensional beings? Is it extraterrestrial? I don't know. I do think there is some type of communication that takes place. But just my own personal views. You guys will probably never watch the show again because you're like, man, this girl is crazy. And that's okay. Margie says, I saw the kids thing. Here's the church hand formation. Yeah. And you got to think, Robert says the cabal is spiritual. You got to wonder, why do we have a pyramid on our dollar? That's a story for another day because our old dollar, allegedly before we were sold as a corporation, it didn't have a pyramid on it. It didn't have, what is it? The Eye of Horus. Is that what they call it? On our dollar bill. And Robert says, real Devil's Playground. The Grove is sacrificial event where our selected leaders are done. If you look inside that Bohemian Grove, man, it's creepy. There's some stuff back there. Nothing surprises me. Robert says, I am crazier than you may be. I think we all have different thoughts about different things, and that's some of mine. There are a lot of weird things going on. And Tim says, the Illuminati, LOL. Yeah, I don't know that much about the Illuminati or all these different things and the things that people do, but I'm telling you. Linda said she was driving and stopped to respond, but couldn't see well without reading glasses. You'll have to rewatch it. Yes, you will. And Karen says, I love talking about these things. Somebody had a heart attack after asking George Bush and John Kerry about it. It could be why maybe my screen earlier disappeared as a warning. Roberta, no, I love it. Sometimes I experience things that make me think I'm crazy. So happy to see I'm not. You are not the only one, Roberta. I literally had a deja vu moment a minute ago, a little while ago on camera, which is the strangest thing. I believe all that stuff, because I believe that we are electric beings. And so to me, when I see lights flicker, I think, is somebody trying to give me a warning? Am I crazy for thinking that? I'm like, who's trying to give me a warning? What's getting ready to happen? Why are the lights flickering? Now, sometimes lights flicker just to flicker because you have an electrical problem. But I'll tell you, sometimes light flicker because somebody's trying to get through and give you a message. Or even stranger, have you ever had a situation where you are really deep in thought and you're really got something going on? You're not necessarily bad or good, and then all of a sudden the light bulb next to you just fizzles out. It's like, poof. I always think, man, did I do that? I know that's crazy, but it has happened to me so many times where I will be thinking about something and the light bulb like blows out, and I'm like, did I just do that? Is my mind really that powerful? And the answer, of course, is probably no. But it is an interesting thought either way. And let's see here. Robert, we are chemical, electrical beings. That we are. Just a bunch of chemicals and electric waves we are in frequencies. And Allison, we are electric. That's why they shock our heart with electric defibrillator. That's absolutely true. And that's why I think going back to the ghost stuff, that when we move on, our spirit, it's hard. That's a tough one because you always think, when I die, is it like unplugging the lamp, from the wall? It goes out and then everything stops with it. Or do I somehow continue on? And that's a story for another day. I've got stories about that too, but we won't have time to talk about all that today. But I do believe our bodies are electric. And I do believe that's why we leave imprints and how we have, spirits and these different things that take place. I absolutely do believe that. Before we get going, when we talked a little bit about the Freemasons, about whether or not they're real or not, I don't have a whole lot to say about the Freemasons because I don't know. I really just don't know. I think it's something that we need to do a deep dive on. And I would really like to have some, I've said this before, some shows outside of the show where we spend, let's say, an entire hour talking about the Freemasons, or an entire 30 minutes, talking about UFOs. An hour might be too long, but these different, maybe 30-minute segments, doing a bigger deep dive on some of these different topics. And not just this, but some news topics too. Landon says ghost stuff can be associated to electrical activity. Absolutely so. Absolutely so. But before we go, we can't go too far without talking about a couple more things. So I want to get into this. Now, I want you to watch this video. It's short, it's only a minute long, and then we're going to talk about it afterwards. And I come across these things, and there's so much going on, I think, in our world these days. And people probably look at this stuff and they say, oh, conspiracy, conspiracy, put your tinfoil hat on, and whatever people want to think. But when you see things going on around you, when you know that this cabal runs our country, when you know that there are ways in which they are trying to suppress us, to keep us from living, in some cases, depopulating us, then I see these videos and I thought, man, some things actually make sense sometimes.
There will be a movement driven by big corporations to take the soul away from people, to disconnect people from the higher world. And in order to do that, we have to destroy the pineal gland in people. And I followed the research on that, and amazingly what we found, the pineal gland is the most sensitive part of our central nervous system and is highly, highly, highly sensitive to 4 things: aluminum, glyphosate, fluoride, and Wi-Fi. And we are the only country in the world that has pushed these 4 things in the last 60 years or so on everybody growing up here. There must have been an ultra-intelligence group of scientists who have designed this protocol to fluoridate the drinking water, to put nanonized aluminum in the air, to put glyphosate in the food, and then activate it, spark it with the right frequency.
What do you think? What do you think about that? I think it makes a lot of sense to me, personally. Let's see. Michelle says there's a couple of members of my church who've done a deep dive into the Freemasons and their connections in various parts of the city of St. Louis, symbols, specific places. Absolutely true, Michelle. I've read studies on that and seen photos of right here in the St. Louis area where you see the symbols of the Freemasons and so on. Certainly so. And the video I just played you, they call it that the revelation of method, and they believe that there's a lot of people who believe that our country is trying to control us. Our government is trying to control us through chemicals, of course, fluoride and different chemicals that are in our water, in our food supply. And a lot of people believe it's much deeper than just the fact that we're all eating processed food and there's no backstory behind it. There's a lot of people who believe that they want us sick. They want to make us sick. They want to make us, obviously, that goes back to the pharmaceutical companies. You create an illness, and guess what? Then you create the cure to go along with it. But there's a lot of people who believe that they can control us through food. I don't know if I believe that that's true, but sugar addiction, that's a real thing. The addiction to processed food, definitely a real thing. So that's something to think about. And before we go, there's, I was going to talk about, we're not going to have time to do it today. We'll talk about it another day. Have you heard the theory of the mud flood, the Tartaria, a prior civilization? We'll get to that another day. I'm going to put that aside for now, but I do want to talk about it at some point because I do think it's fascinating. If you don't know what Tartaria is, look it up. And I absolutely believe that there have been many civilizations on the earth, many civilizations. I really do. I think that you have to look down. People don't look down. You don't dig deep enough to see the prior civilizations. And I think there's a lot of proof of prior civilizations because, some of these, gosh, not too long ago, I believe it was in Greece, they found this beautiful Greek patio, and it had this beautiful work of art. And for, typically when you see something like that, you stop there. You don't dig any deeper because it's beautiful. You've uncovered something, right? And so they just stop there. They don't dig deeper. Well, in this case, they did dig deeper. And they ended up tearing up this beautiful Grecian floor and dug several feet down. And guess what? They found another one, another part of civilization, feet down. And, I think that there have been many different civilizations that have lived on this earth, including here in the United States. And I think if we dug down far enough, we would start seeing that at one time there were civilizations that became more advanced and somehow were wiped out and then civilization started again. And I think it's happened many times in the millions of years that Earth has been here. And that's why I think, you hear these stories about, they've uncovered a site where it looked like somebody used a very precise type of drill to dig down, which they shouldn't have had that technology back then. We know about hieroglyphs, that you see in different cave drawings and different things. There's some really, really wild things out there that I think that we don't know about. And I don't have the video for you today, and we're not going to get into it today because we don't have time. But at some point, I do have a video. Tartaria, that's right, Robert. If you don't know what Tartaria is, look into it because that's a wild story. And the mud floods and everything else in the different civilizations. I do think there's so much to that, but we unfortunately just don't have time today to get into it because I still want to talk about the flat earthers, right? The flat earthers and what these people think. And I'm going to play this really quick before time gets away from me because you know me, I'll blather and talk on and on. And yes, giants. I know, Landon, I was going to cover more about giants and I didn't. But we'll get into that. We can even do it on Monday. We don't have to wait till Friday to talk about this stuff because I've got a good video about giants also. All right, let's take a look at this.
The hidden lands beyond the ice walls. Awakening truth. Let's have a little journey to the old map.
I don't. Yes, I know. And then
the hidden lands.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. Do you see this formation here? Now, there are people, the flat earthers believe that this outer ice ring, see this inner ring right here? I don't have any way to point to it for you guys to see it. A lot of people believe that's the ice wall, and that all of our countries that we believe are on a round Earth are within that inner ice wall, and that we cannot get past that ice wall. Or I don't know all the story of what they think. Maybe we can get past it, we don't want to, or bad things happen to us. I don't know. But flat earthers believe that everything in what we as our country is within this inner ring. And then around that is the ice wall. And they believe all of these things you see past the ice wall are where other beings live, what we think are aliens or interdimensional beings. They live in these outer rings. And then if you look at a flat Earth's larger map, there's areas that they say are the wastelands or the frozen lands and different things like that. So according to the flat earthers, we are living right there in the middle. And they claim, and I've got tons of videos that talk about it. And I don't believe the earth is flat. I absolutely believe the earth is round. I absolutely believe we live on a round planet in a giant galaxy full of more round planets. But I kind of do get why people get it. I really do. Oh my gosh, Landon, we're like bugs in a mason jar. You must be reading the same stuff I am, because I almost played a video about the bugs in the mason jar, quite honestly. I'll have to do that another day also. And but yeah, so these flat earthers, I'll tell you, they have a good argument. I've watched some really good videos that these flat earthers have put out there. And the one I just played, I shared that already onto my Telegram page, and you should go out and take a look at it. I'm not saying that you should believe the earth is flat. I don't believe the earth is flat, but I think it's fascinating to get an idea of what these other people do think. So they believe that the earth is domed. And there's a video that they have that I've watched where they talk about somebody many years ago, before history was rewritten, that talked about going to Antarctica. And when they went to Antarctica, it was a dome, a 35,000 feet high dome. So there's a lot of people who believe that we couldn't go to the moon, we couldn't go to space because the dome is there. We cannot go up above the dome. No one knows what's up outside of the dome. If you try to fly up 35,000 feet, you hit the dome, or higher than that. Is it true? No. I mean, in my opinion, no, it's not true. Some people might believe it. Robert says round like a pizza. And Robert, I don't know if you believe in the flat earther theory or not. I know there's a lot of people that do. And as crazy as some of it sounds, when you watch these videos and you listen to the arguments, it kind of makes sense. But then the way I see it is if you can circle the entire globe, then how can we say the earth is flat? If you can travel in a circle from one starting point back to your original starting point, then how is it possible that the earth is flat? To me, my brain just cannot wrap it around it. Let's see, Robert, whether it's flat or not will not change anything. And I see 135,000 feet at the center. The ice wall is about 20,000 feet. I'm telling you, go out and watch these videos. And I'm not convincing you to be a flat earther. I'm not a flat earther. I don't believe in the flat earth theory, but I do find it's fascinating. And when you look at the video, it makes me think, well, how do they know this? Like, how do they know what's out there if the earth is flat? And they say, well, you have this wall of ice. And they say it's really easy to find, that anybody can get in a ship and go to the edge of Earth, what we call Earth, and you come to these ice walls, and that's as far as it goes. Robert says, same as a clock face. Yeah, it is. It is interesting. It is fascinating to find out what people think. It is. It's just another alternative way of seeing the world and seeing the earth. And I do think that there are people who will watch these videos and who will look into these flat earth theories and believe it, because it is very believable when you watch some of it. It all kind of makes sense in a way, even though I still don't believe it. I don't believe we went to the moon either, of course, but or landed on the moon, I should say. However, I still believe the Earth is beautiful, round, blue orb in the sky. But maybe I'm the crazy one. Maybe I'm wrong in my thinking. I don't know. Anyway, so that's a story for another day. Antarctica, man, we could do an entire show on Antarctica alone. It is fascinating, the things that are found in Antarctica. And I believe there's a reason why we are not allowed to go to Antarctica. You're not allowed to. You cannot go to Antarctica like you're going to the beach and go there and hang out. You're not allowed to. You're always supervised. Always. They will never let you venture around Antarctica. We'll get into that another day, because my 2 hours are about up. And if I don't, I won't be able to play the show again once I go over 2 hours. So I got to be careful with my timeline. So that being said, I do hope that you guys all have a really fantastic weekend. Thank you for hanging in there with me through my craziness on a Friday. It's so funny because every show I've been on, I've been very limited to some degree on how far I can go with some of these theories. So it's kind of interesting, and also maybe detrimental that I'm allowed to actually freely talk about these things. We'll see what direction that goes in. But either way, I hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend. I look forward to seeing you on Monday, some of you tomorrow, because Joe Adams, of course, has his event coming up this Saturday. And before we head out, I'm going to be posting the poster to Joe Mason. I got Freemasons on my mind, to Joe Adams' event. Man, he's going to have a fantastic freedom rally. I had the poster, but when all my stuff went down, the poster went with it. But I do have it here somewhere. Where is it? I want to make sure I talk about this before we go. Well, darn it. All my stuff is gone. I don't know what happened. Whenever my system went down for those few minutes and I couldn't see you guys, and my camera I guess my camera was on, even though I couldn't see anything. All my stuff is gone. I don't know where anything is anymore. I'm going to post it on my personal Facebook page. Please take a look at it. Colonel Joe Adams has been faithfully joining us every week. We've got to get out there. We've got to promote Joe Adams and the Washington Guard. You can reach out to the Washington Guard at patriots@thewashingtonguard.com. Go out, take a look at their website, thewashingtonguard.com, and you can see all of their events coming up. Marshall Teague to be the guest speaker tomorrow. I believe Jamie Ullman is going to be there. There's going to be a lot of good folks out there tomorrow in I believe it's Moscow Mills. I'll have to go back and look. I'm going to post that on my Facebook page. hopefully you guys will all have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you. If not tomorrow, then on Monday. Have a good weekend, everyone. I'm Tabitha with Tabs on Tap.